The rain was pounding hard on the streets of Manila that night. The city lights blurred through the downpour. I was rushing home after a long day when a sudden flash of headlights came straight at me, the sound of metal twisting, glass shattering. Then nothing but darkness. I opened my eyes to blinding white lights above me, voices shouting, hands pressing on my chest, a monitor beeping fast then slow. My body felt heavy and cold, like the life was slipping away from me. In that moment, I thought of my Lola Rosa, her gentle voice telling me when I was a boy, "Mateo, there are 3 heavens, and one day you will see them." Back then I laughed. I thought it was just one of her old stories. But now her words echoed in my mind, clear and urgent. I could feel something lifting me, pulling me away from the chaos of the room. The beeping, the shouting, all fading behind me. I looked down and saw myself lying on the hospital bed, doctors bending over me, the smell of antiseptic still clinging to me. Then I noticed something else in the distance, shadows moving. Not like people, more like dark shapes, dragging others away into the depths. I felt a chill, not from the cold, but from the knowing deep in my spirit. This was not just a dream, not just the brain shutting down. I was leaving the world I knew and stepping into a reality I could never have imagined. I felt the pull becoming stronger, the room below shrinking until it was just a speck. The sound of the rain replaced by a deep hum, like the heartbeat of the universe. Then suddenly I was standing on what looked like air itself, and beside me stood a man in robes of pure light, his eyes calm yet piercing. I knew without asking, this was Michael, the archangel my Lola used to speak about. He said nothing at first, just motioned for me to follow him. And as we moved, the world around us began to change. The first thing I saw was a sky so vast, it seemed to stretch without end. Clouds rolling in patterns too perfect to be random. Birds soaring without effort. The air pure and crisp. The light golden and alive. Michael looked at me and said, "Mateo, this is the first heaven, the one you see every day from earth. In Genesis, it is called the firmament, the expanse God made to separate the waters above from the waters below. Here is where the winds are born, where the rains gather, where the earth is shielded from the harshness of space. Without this heaven, no life could exist on your world." As we walked through the sky, I saw the weather forming like a living tapestry. Raindrops dancing in midair before falling to nourish a distant field. Sunlight bending to warm a small fishing village. Stars appearing one by one as night approached. Michael said, "Every sunrise, every cloud, every star declares the glory of God. Yet many pass under this heaven every day without seeing his hand in it." I felt my chest tighten, thinking of how often I had looked at my phone instead of the sky, how many times I had ignored the beauty above me. Then the light around us began to dim, the air heavier, the colors fading into shades of gray and black. I heard sounds now, not of wind or birds, but of clashing metal, cries of victory and pain. I turned to Michael and asked, "What is this place?" He answered, "This is the second heaven, the unseen battlefield. Here angels and demons wage war over nations, communities, families, and souls. It is written in Ephesians that your struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, authorities, powers of this dark world, and spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm." I saw in the distance a group of angels in armor, their swords flashing like fire, facing a horde of dark beings whose shapes shifted like smoke. One angel was surrounded, yet he stood firm, a shield of light in his hand. Michael pointed, "Prayer is what strengthens them." When Daniel prayed, the answer was sent immediately, but the messenger was delayed by the prince of Persia until Michael came to help. So it is with you. Every sincere prayer shakes this realm. Every word of faith breaks chains here. I watched as beams of light shot down from somewhere above, striking the darkness and pushing it back. As we moved further, the sounds of battle faded, replaced by something so pure and harmonious, it brought tears to my eyes. A brightness began to surround us again, but this light was different. It wasn't just illumination, it was life itself. I could feel it soaking into me, healing every part of me. Then I saw it. A city so radiant, it looked like it was made of diamonds and gold. Walls gleaming, gates like giant pearls, and a river clear as crystal flowing from a great throne. Michael's voice was softer now. "This is the third heaven, the dwelling place of God. The place Paul spoke of when he said he was caught up to paradise and heard things too wonderful to tell. From the throne came a presence so overwhelming I couldn't stand. I fell to my knees, not from fear but from awe. From the throne, I heard a voice saying, "Look, I make all things new. Here there is no more death, no more mourning, no more crying, no more pain. For the old order of things has passed away." I saw people there, their faces glowing with peace. Some I recognized, family who had gone before me, friends who had trusted in Christ. They were whole, their laughter like music. Michael said, "This is the promise for those who accept the gift of salvation. This is home." But then, at the edge of that glory, I saw something else, a deep chasm, and beyond it, a place of absence, where no light reached. Michael's tone grew solemn. Not all choose this place. Many reject God's offer and walk their own path. They find themselves in the only other place where His presence is not. And without His presence, there is only despair. I looked away, unable to bear the thought. Michael touched my shoulder. Mateo, you must tell them. The heavens are real, the war is real, and the choice is real. Life on earth is short, but what follows lasts forever. I wanted to stay in that light, in that peace, but something in me knew my journey was not over. Michael began to lead me away from the throne, and the scenes of the three heavens faded like the closing of my eyes. But the weight of what I had seen stayed heavy in my soul. I thought of my family, my friends, my country, so busy with survival, politics, distractions, and yet so unaware of the realms above and around them. I realized I could never look at the sky the same way again, for I had walked in it, fought through it, and seen the home that waits beyond it. As Michael led me through the fading light, his expression grew thoughtful. We were no longer in the brilliance of the third heaven, but not yet in the darkness of the second. It felt like a place between, a space for conversation. Mateo, he said, do you know why so many people in your world have never heard about what you just saw? I shook my head, unsure if it was because they would not believe or because no one was telling them. Michael continued, many pastors, many spiritual leaders choose to avoid speaking about the three heavens. Some fear they will be misunderstood. Others fear they will lose the attention of their congregation. And some simply do not know the fullness of what Scripture reveals. He paused, watching me carefully. In your churches, how often have you heard teaching on the unseen war? How often have you been told that the struggles in your life may be the echo of a battle in the second heaven? I thought about it. The sermons I grew up hearing were about moral living, forgiveness, charity, important things. Yes, but rarely about the deeper truths, the spiritual structure that shapes reality. I remembered how my Lola Rosa tried to teach me, but even I found it too strange to think about at the time. I told Michael, most of the time, we hear about salvation, grace, living right, but never the details of these realms. Michael nodded slowly. These things are good and necessary, but without the understanding of the greater picture, people walk into battle unarmed. They fight each other instead of recognizing the real enemy. Without knowing the three heavens, they do not understand why prayer matters, why faith matters beyond emotion. They forget that your world is not isolated. It is surrounded, influenced, and often shaken by the realms above it. He gestured to the side, and I saw a vision like a window opening. In it, I saw a church full of people. They were singing, smiling. But above them, in the second heaven, dark shapes were gathering, waiting for an opening. A few angels stood guarding, but they seemed to strain under the weight of the attack. Do you see, Michael said, when the people below live unaware, when they do not pray, when they do not live alert, the guardians above fight harder and longer. Some prayers go unanswered for a time because the resistance in the second heaven is fierce. Not because God does not hear, but because the battle is real. I felt a heaviness in my chest as I thought of my own life. How many times had I prayed without persistence? How many times had I given up because I thought God was silent? When in truth, the answer may have been caught in the struggle I never saw. The scene shifted, and now I saw a group of young people in a busy city street, laughing, scrolling through their phones, not looking up. Above them, streams of light tried to reach them, but shadows darted in to block the light. Michael spoke with sadness. Distraction is one of the most powerful weapons the enemy uses. If the mind is always on the noise of the world, there is no space to see the heavens, no space to listen for God's voice. I thought of my own distractions, the hours wasted, the chances missed. It felt like a wound opening in my soul. Why would pastors avoid this? I asked, is it fear of scaring people? Michael looked ahead as we walked. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is the pressure to keep messages simple and comfortable. Sometimes it is a lack of teaching passed down to them. The depth of the three heavens requires courage to speak and humility to learn. Not everyone is willing to go that far. But for those who do, their people are prepared, awake, and ready for the fight. He turned to me. Mateo, you have been shown this for a reason. You must not keep it for yourself. I felt a mixture of honor and fear. I was just an ordinary man. I had never preached, never led a congregation, but Michael's words burned in my spirit. Maybe my voice would not reach everyone, but it could reach someone. And if that someone changed, perhaps they would reach another, and the chain would grow. Michael smiled faintly as if reading my thoughts. That is how heaven works, one light at a time, until the darkness is broken. We stopped walking, and I realized we were standing in front of something like a great door. It shimmered like heat rising from a road. Behind it, I could sense something immense. This, Michael said, will show you the journey of Enoch, the one who walked with God until God took him. His eyes met mine. You must understand the courage it takes to walk with God in a corrupt world. The heavens will make sense only when you see them through his path. I felt my heartbeat quicken, not from fear this time, but from anticipation. Because deep inside, I knew that what lay beyond that door would change me even more than what I had already seen. Michael placed his hand on the door, and with a sound like a rushing wind, it opened. A flood of light spilled out, pulling me into the vision that was not just a story from an ancient book, but a living, breathing reality, waiting for me to witness every step. The moment I stepped through the door, the ground beneath me vanished. and I was carried upward by a force that felt both fierce and gentle. I saw Enoch ahead of me, his figure glowing yet distinct, like a man touched by eternity. He turned slightly, his eyes calm but alert, as if he had been expecting me. "Come, Mateo," he said. "It is time you see what I saw, the journey that has no equal in all the stories of men." The first place we reached was unlike anything I had imagined, a boundless ocean hanging above the earth, waves shimmering with a light that seemed alive, and around it, angels stationed like sentinels, their forms steady and bright, each one holding what looked like rods of crystal. Enoch explained, "This is the first heaven in my journey, not the same as the one you saw with Michael earlier. The waters above are kept in place. Here the angels guard the stars, commanding their movements. Nothing in the sky shifts without their notice. I watched as they moved their hands, and a cluster of stars glided across the darkness in perfect order. Their beauty made my breath catch. We moved again, and the brightness faded into a heavy darkness. The second heaven. Enoch's voice grew low. This is where the fallen are kept. Once mighty, now bound. Their faces a mixture of rage and regret. I saw them in vast prison. Their forms twisted, their eyes burning with something that was not just anger, but shame. Enoch told me, "These are the ones who turned from God. They followed their own will and brought corruption to the earth. Here they await their judgment." Their cries echo without end. The sound made my heart ache, because I could sense their memories of glory, now lost forever. The darkness gave way to a radiant garden, the third heaven of Enoch's path. It was more alive than any paradise I could imagine. Towering trees heavy with fruit, streams flowing with honey, milk, oil, and wine, flowers singing in tones beyond human music. At the center stood the tree of life, its roots reaching into creation itself, its branches glittering with gold and crimson. Enoch smiled. "This is for the righteous, those who feed the hungry, clothe the naked, walk humbly with their God." But he turned my gaze to the far north of this heaven, and there I saw fire, rivers of flame, and souls in torment. These were the ones who rejected God, who chose darkness. Here they faced the result of their choice. I shivered, realizing that even in paradise, the reality of judgment was never far away. We rose into the fourth heaven, and I was struck by the sight of the sun and moon, each with a brilliance I had never known. The sun burning 7 times brighter than on earth, the moon glowing like polished silver. Angels moved with precision around them, guiding their paths, ensuring the balance of night and day. Enoch said, "These keep the seasons, the tides, the rhythms of your world. Nothing is random, all is ordered." I felt small yet strangely secure, knowing that such care was woven into every sunrise. The fifth heaven felt heavy with silence. Here stood the Grigori, once watchers over humanity, now fallen, their giant forms motionless, their eyes hollow. Enoch's voice was solemn. They abandoned their place. They took human wives. They fathered the Nephilim. They spread violence and corruption. Now they stand here in regret until the final judgment. I could feel the weight of their choice pressing on the air. It was a warning without words. Then came the sixth heaven, a realm blazing with light, where 7 ranks of angels studied the works of God. Their songs of praise so pure, they seemed to shape the very air. I saw the archangels among them, overseeing the harmony of creation, ensuring that every star, every planet, every wind and wave moved in perfect obedience to God's will. Enoch whispered, "This is the joy of creation fulfilled, when everything is as it should be." The 7th heaven opened in a blaze of fire and light. The cherubim, the seraphim, the thrones with many eyes, all gathered around a throne so bright I could barely see. The sound of their worship was like thunder and rushing waters. Enoch fell on his face, and I followed. The holiness here was beyond bearing. Then Michael himself appeared, lifting Enoch to stand before the Almighty. I watched as garments of glory were placed on him, and he was anointed with oil that shone like the stars. He was no longer as I had first seen him. He was now like the angels. We rose into the 8th heaven, a realm of seasons and times, where the shift from drought to rain, from heat to cold, was overseen by radiant beings. They moved like the wind, adjusting the balances that sustained the earth. In the 9th heaven, I saw the constellations dwelling in a vast expanse, each one alive, each one singing in its own voice, their order perfect, their paths unchanging. I realized that what humans see as distant stars are part of a living map, known fully only to their creator. Finally, we entered the 10th heaven, and the light there was beyond any light. It was not just brightness but a presence, the presence of God himself. His face like molten iron glowing, sparks and flames radiating. Around him, countless angels worshipped, their voices weaving a harmony that filled every part of me. Then the voice of God spoke, "Let Enoch dwell before my face for eternity." I saw Enoch clothed again, transformed, made eternal. He looked at me. "Mateo, remember, the heavens are not myth. They are the structure of reality. Your life is short, but what you do with it shapes where you will dwell forever." As the vision began to fade, my heart pounded. Every scene, every word burning into me. I knew this was not just for me. It was for every soul still breathing on earth. The light of the 10th heaven faded. and I found myself standing once more in that in-between place, the air still thick with the weight of what I had seen. Then three figures appeared before me, each distinct, each carrying an authority that went beyond human measure. Enoch stood closest, but beside him came another, his eyes sharp and his presence strong, dressed in garments that looked as if they were woven from fire and wind. I knew from the stories of my childhood who he was: Elijah, the prophet who was taken up in a whirlwind. And standing a little apart was a man dressed like a king, yet bearing the peace of a priest: Melchizedek, the mysterious king of Salem, whose story had always puzzled me in the scriptures. Enoch stepped forward first. Mateo, you have now walked where few have walked. I was taken from the earth without tasting death, not because I was perfect, but because I walked with God when the world around me was drowning in wickedness. My life was a testimony that even in the darkest time, it is possible to live close to Him. And when you do, every step you take on earth echoes in heaven. He looked at me with eyes that seemed to pierce my soul. Remember this: your days are numbered, but your walk with God can make them eternal in value. My heart pounded as I took in his words. I thought about my own life, the compromises, the distractions, and I felt the weight of change pressing on me. Then Elijah stepped closer. His presence carried a kind of courage I had never felt before. Mateo, I stood against kings, against false prophets, against a nation that had turned its back on God. I was just one man, yet I called fire from heaven. Not because I was powerful, but because I knew my God. His voice grew firm. When the world is filled with idolatry, corruption, and lies, you cannot stand silent. You must speak the truth, even if you stand alone. He paused, and I remembered the streets of Manila, the corruption I had seen, the injustice that had become so normal that people stopped noticing. Elijah's words hit me like a blow. Faith without courage will not survive the storm. Melchizedek now approached, his voice calm but filled with depth. I was both king and priest, yet I had no recorded beginning or end. My priesthood was not based on human lineage. It was eternal, pointing forward to the one who would be the eternal high priest, Jesus Christ. He placed his hand on my shoulder. Mateo, remember that every true act of leadership must be rooted in service to God. Authority without submission to Him becomes tyranny, and priesthood without righteousness becomes corruption. Your world is full of leaders who serve themselves first, but the heavens honor those who serve God above all. I felt the truth in his words, sharp and undeniable. The three of them stood together, their voices blending into one message: Enoch's quiet devotion, Elijah's fiery courage, Melchizedek's eternal authority, each a different reflection of faith lived fully. They spoke again. Mateo, you have been shown much, not so you can return unchanged, but so you can be a witness. Warn them that death is not the end, that the choices made in the brief span of life will echo forever. Tell them that the heavens are real, that judgment is certain, and that hope is offered freely through Christ. I felt my throat tighten, my mind filling with the faces of the people I loved, my family, my friends, my neighbors, even strangers in the crowded street. So many living like tomorrow is guaranteed, like eternity is a distant rumor. I wanted to plead with them right then, but Elijah spoke again. Not yet. Mateo, your time is not finished. You will return. And when you do, speak boldly, for your words will carry the weight of what you have seen. But remember, your life must match your words, otherwise they will not believe. Enoch smiled faintly. The walk will not be easy. The world will pull at you, but the same God who took me is the God who will keep you. And Melchizedek added, serve Him in everything, whether great or small, for the smallest act done in faith can move mountains in the unseen realm. Their words settled into me like seeds. I knew they would grow, and with that, the light around them began to fade, leaving me standing alone once more with Michael. Michael looked at me, his expression both serious and kind. You have been entrusted with their voices, their warnings, their hope. Carry it well, for there will be those who mock you, those who ignore you, and those who will be changed forever because of you. The choice is not yours to make for them, but it is yours to speak the truth. I nodded, my chest heavy with the responsibility, my mind already racing with how I would tell this story, and my heart trembling with the realization that this was no dream, no hallucination, but a calling written into my very soul. Michael began to walk with me again, but this time his pace was slower, as if he wanted each step to sink deep into my memory. Mateo, you have seen the three heavens. You have walked the path of Enoch. You have spoken with those who never tasted death. Now you must understand what it all means for the life you still have. He gestured, and suddenly scenes began to unfold before me like visions across a vast screen, each one pulling at my heart in a different way. First, I saw the first heaven again, the skies over the Philippines, sunlight breaking through after a storm, fishermen pushing their boats into the sea, children flying kites in open fields. Michael's voice was steady. This is God's creation. It sustains you. It shields you. Yet how often do people look up, see its beauty, and give thanks? The first heaven is a daily reminder of His care. Yet it is also the stage where many live without acknowledging Him. I thought of my own life. The mornings I woke up and rushed into my day without even a glance upward. Then the scene shifted to the second heaven, the unseen battlefield. I saw angels standing guard over schools, over hospitals, over families. But I also saw the darkness pushing hard against them. Demonic forces whispering lies into the ears of leaders, stirring anger between neighbors, feeding greed in the hearts of the powerful. Michael looked at me. These wars are not fought with guns or politics, but with prayer, with truth, with faith that does not back down. Every time someone prays with sincerity, the light strengthens here. But when people remain silent, the darkness advances. I felt a deep ache in my spirit, knowing how many times I had stayed silent when I should have prayed. Finally, the vision opened to the third heaven, the home of God, the New Jerusalem shining in unshakable peace, rivers clear as crystal, voices singing in harmony, and I saw faces of people who had endured hardship yet remained faithful, their eyes filled with joy that nothing on earth could steal. Michael's tone was firm. This is the hope promised to those who choose God's way. This is the reward that no thief can take, no war can destroy. But it is also the reality most ignore. Thinking they have endless time to decide, I swallowed hard, feeling the urgency press against my chest. The visions faded, and we stood still. Michael turned to me. Mateo, the lesson is this. Creation reveals God's glory. The battle warns you to stay alert, and the promise calls you to live with eternity in mind. The three heavens are not distant ideas. They are connected to every choice, every thought, every word you speak. The enemy's goal is to blind you to this, to make you think life is only about what you can see and touch. But the truth is far greater. I felt the weight of those words settle into me, heavier than anything I had carried before. Then, as if to seal the message, Michael showed me a final vision. The streets of my own city, people walking with heads down, screens glowing in their hands, laughter mixed with arguments, news blaring about corruption, crime, and scandals. But above them, in the second heaven, I saw the battle raging, angels holding the line while waves of darkness pushed forward. In the first heaven, storms gathered over the sea, ready to crash against the coast. And in the third heaven, the gates of the city stood open, waiting, but few were walking toward them. The contrast was almost too much to bear. I turned to Michael. What am I supposed to do with all of this? His eyes locked on mine. Live it, speak it, pray it, and never forget it. You have been shown these things so that you will no longer live as if life here is all that matters. And when you speak with the fire of Elijah, the devotion of Enoch, and the righteousness of Melchizedek. The time is short. Mateo, the days are not promised. The battle is now. I felt my heart pound with a mixture of fear and resolve, knowing the calm of my old life was gone, replaced by a mission I could not ignore. The air around us began to shift, the sense of weightlessness fading, the pull of my body calling me back. But before the light closed completely, Michael said one last thing. Remember, Mateo, the heavens are watching, and your choices echo beyond the earth. Then everything went white, and I felt myself falling, not into darkness, but into the sound of a hospital room, the beeping of a monitor, the muffled voices of doctors, and the realization that I had been given a second chance. I opened my eyes slowly. The bright hospital lights above me now seemed softer. My chest rose and fell with steady breaths. I could hear the distant hum of machines, the quiet shuffle of nurses moving down the hall. For a moment I wondered if it had all been a dream, but the weight in my heart told me otherwise. The images of the three heavens, the voices of Enoch, Elijah, Melchizedek, and Michael were still vivid, as if they were standing beside my bed. I tried to sit up, and a wave of weakness washed over me. But it was nothing compared to the flood of urgency pressing in on my soul. I thought of my family, my friends, the countless people I had passed in crowded jeepneys, in the market, in the streets, so busy with survival that eternity was the last thing on their minds. I saw in my memory the shadows in the second heaven, the light of the third. And I realized that my life could never return to what it was. I had been given something too great to keep to myself. It was not a story meant to entertain. It was a warning, a play, a call to wake up before it is too late. As I lay there, I remembered the chasm I had seen at the edge of the third heaven, the place where light ended and darkness began. I could still hear the cries from that darkness, the sound of regret without hope. It pierced me deeper than any pain in my body. I whispered a prayer. Lord, help me never to forget what I have seen. Let every word I speak from now on carry the truth of eternity. I thought again of my Lola Rosa's voice years ago in our small home, telling me about the three heavens. Back then I had smiled politely. Now I wanted to fall at her feet and thank her for planting a seed I had ignored for so long. Tears filled my eyes as I thought of the people who might hear my story. Some will believe, some will laugh, some will turn away. But I knew even if one soul turned toward God because of what I shared, it would be worth everything. I felt an ache in my chest, not from my injury, but from longing for that light, for that peace, for the sound of voices worshiping in perfect unity. But I also knew that longing had to be put to work here, now, in the short time I had left on earth. When a nurse came in to check my vitals, she asked if I was alright. I nodded, but inside I wanted to grab her hand and tell her everything. The heavens, the war, the promise, the danger, but I knew I had to be wise. I had to choose my moments, not waste the message. Yet I also knew I could not stay silent for long. The fire was already burning inside me. The same fire Elijah had spoken of. The same quiet strength Enoch had carried. The same eternal weight Melchizedek had embodied. That night, as the city outside the hospital continued its restless noise, I prayed again, not for myself this time, but for the people I loved, for my country, for strangers I would one day meet. I asked God to use my voice, my life, my every step to point toward the reality of the three heavens and to prepare others for the choice that would decide there forever. I knew I could never be the same, because once you have seen eternity, the temporary world loses its grip on you, and the only thing that matters is helping others see it too. If you have heard my story, if you have felt even a small stirring in your heart, do not ignore it. Life is short, the battle is real, and eternity is closer than you think. Make your choice today. Turn your heart to God. Seek Him while there is still time, and live with the heavens in mind. Share this message with someone you care about. Leave a comment below telling me what spoke to you most, and subscribe so we can keep walking this journey together. Every view, every comment, every share can be the spark that wakes another soul before it is too late. Do not wait for another chance, because tomorrow is never promised. Join me and let us help each other live ready for the day we see the heavens ourselves.